China is cracking down on leaks of military secrets. Russian and Chinese forces are very active around Taiwan and Japan, and UC Berkeley tries to wean itself off Chinese cash. And more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Incogni. You probably know that companies are collecting your personal data, but you may not realize just how many. Dozens, maybe hundreds, most of which you've never heard of and you have no idea what they're doing with it. Incogni helps stop them. I'll explain more at the end. So happy Valentine's Day. In recognition of this most romantic of days, I want to start out with a story about love. Specifically, the beautiful bromance between the United Kingdom's Prince Andrew and alleged Chinese Communist Party spy Yang Tengbo. Surely this is the only illicit romance involving Prince Andrew? According to Yang in recently released documents, Prince Andrew wanted to establish a royal institute to develop links with China. The facility would have been called the St. James Palace Institute, and according to Yang, would have fit well with the Chinese Communist Party's concept of second-channel diplomacy, which is contact between countries using non-official and non-government channels. Basically a backdoor for Chinese communist influence that gets around all the pesky laws of a country. Yang has been banned from entering the UK over concerns that he's a national security threat. I'm shocked. In a statement he made to the Special Immigration Appeals Commission enforcing the ban, he mentioned the Royal Institute, saying, "I believe the St. James Palace Institute was an idea first brought up by the Duke of York in either late 2018 or early 2019 in a meeting I attended with him." Ah, the old, "it wasn't me, it was his idea" appeal. A tried and true tactic since the times of middle school. He also said, although it was a very vague idea at the time, I saw the St. James Palace Institute as having potential to create these people-to-people exchanges, which at the time at least, was encouraged and seen as positive by the UK. I'm not surprised Prince Andrew would want to facilitate people-to-people exchanges. He probably missed doing that with his good pal Jeffrey Epstein, who definitely, for sure, 100% unalived himself. According to a new report, China is quietly supplying minerals to Russia for its war machine in Ukraine. The CCP maintains that it's both neutral and a potential arbiter in the war. But the US ain't buying it, which is why last year the Biden administration imposed sanctions on more than a dozen Chinese companies for supplying Moscow with material for its military. However, it's been discovered that left untouched by these Western sanctions are some 24 Chinese companies supplying Russia with gallium, germanium, and antimony, key elements found in the drones and missiles that Moscow is using to pummel Ukraine. At least a third of these companies are partially owned by the Chinese government. These Chinese companies feed critical minerals to the Kremlin's military-industrial complex, including the Russian state-owned conglomerate Rostec, which says it provides nearly 80% of the weapons Russia is deploying in Ukraine. So while China's trying to portray itself like an impartial ref in a boxing match, it's secretly handing one of the fighters brass knuckles. Oh, and piles of ammunition. But the No Limits partnership doesn't end there. Chinese and Russian militaries have both been detected near U.S. allies, specifically Taiwan and Japan. The Japanese Defense Ministry last Thursday reported 2 unfamiliar Chinese drones near its southwestern islands, including one that transited the Yonaguni Gap near Taiwan. Tokyo scrambled aircraft to prevent an incursion into its airspace, and the drones were tracked returning to China. Meanwhile, the Taiwanese Defense Ministry also reported a total of 27 Chinese military aircraft flying around the island, including drones. And Japan tracked a Russian fleet oiler and 2 Russian corvettes transiting around the same area. But wait, there's more. Taiwan also detected 6 Chinese balloons off the coast of the island. Somehow I don't think those were the party favors kind. Taiwan also detected 9 Chinese military aircraft, 6 warships, 2 official ships, and a partridge in a pear tree. The partridge is trained as a spy. And speaking of Chinese balloons, remember that Chinese spy balloon that flew over the US and Canada? Turned out it was packed with American tech from at least 5 different firms. And I know what you're thinking. China stole the tech. Look, that's a hurtful stereotype, because it turns out the companies may have just sold it. One piece of American tech on the balloon was a short-burst messaging module called Iridium 9602 from Virginia-based global satellite communications company Iridium. The company said it was unaware that its tech was being used in this way, and they don't approve. probably because the messaging company doesn't appreciate not getting messages about this sooner. But crucial components from other U.S. companies were also found in the balloon wreckage, including tech from onsemi, Omega Engineering, Amphenol All Sensors Corp., and Texas Instruments, yes, the company that makes calculators. What? Did the CCP want to write boobies in numbers or something? A lot of middle school references this episode. Anyway, according to Newsweek, this first raises questions over the role of private companies that sell their equipment globally in keeping control over the ultimate users of dual-use technology that can have defense applications as well as civilian uses. So far, the companies have either declined to comment or said they would cooperate with any export restrictions going forward. Hey, export restrictions. That sounds like a good idea. And after the break, UC Berkeley decides China isn't such a good partner after all. Welcome back. UC Berkeley is cutting ties with the Chinese university after receiving $87.5 million from China for, I'm sure, innocent altruistic reasons that had no strings attached whatsoever. And that doesn't even include the $59 million in funding from Hong Kong, which is counted separately. And still more than any other country gave to the school, which since 2013 has received over $790 million in foreign funds. The two largest Chinese contracts, worth $19 million and $15 million, were to help fund the Tsinghua Berkeley Shenzhen Institute, a partnership with Tsinghua University that has campuses at Berkeley and in Shenzhen, China. UC Berkeley's assistant vice chancellor wrote an email to the College Fix saying, after careful consideration, which began nearly a year ago, UC Berkeley is in the process of relinquishing all ownership in the Tsinghua Berkeley Shenzhen Institute nonprofit entity in Shenzhen. He says the university continuously evaluates and reevaluates the risks and benefits of foreign engagement regarding research security. I'm surprised it took them a year to come to this conclusion, since most would see China and security in the same sentence and realize we made a terrible mistake. A recent Open the Books report states that billions of unreported dollars in funding from China could be helping Beijing access U.S. STEM research and defense tech, because China's gonna China. While universities must report all foreign funding contributions to the Department of Education, it doesn't have to disclose the entire contract or explain entirely what the purpose of this funding is, which is totally fine because, it's not like colleges drill into their students' heads to always cite their sources. Rights groups have warned that authoritarian countries funding universities could chill free speech or result in self-censorship in order to maintain the cash flow. Though I'd argue that colleges would engage in censorship anyway, just for the love of the game. China is changing its rules on military secrets. The Chinese internet is full of bloggers who post about the People's Liberation Army, and sometimes they see more than they should. Recently, this footage went viral of a new mysterious Chinese fighter jet, sparking speculations that it has cutting-edge stealth tech, although it's apparently not that stealthy. The new rules want to cut down on that kind of thing. They also discourage depoliticization. In other words, the de-emphasis of the Chinese Communist Party's absolute control over the armed forces. Yes, they want people to know the military is just an extension of the Communist Party. To drive that point home, they do provide bloggers with some content suggestions, including, I kid you not, Xi Jinping thought on strengthening the military. I assume the thought is pump all our money into it while everything else around us crumbles. Now, I've got a video I want to show you that you're going to love. But first, this episode is sponsored by Incogni. Whenever you do anything online or use apps on your phone, there are tons of companies that collect your personal data. I'm talking name, social security number, home address, employment history, all sorts of things you might not want to be public knowledge. When I signed up for Incogni 3 years ago, I discovered there were dozens of data brokers that potentially had my private information without my permission. This was terrifying. So what did I do? I've been getting as many of these companies as possible to delete my data from their systems. I did it using Incogni, and you can too. Incogni has already gotten my details removed from 459 of these data brokers who've collected my info, and I didn't have to do anything after signing up. Incogni just handles it. So get Incogni for yourself and reclaim your own data. Go to incogni.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to get 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Get your personal data off the market with Incogni. And before YouTube's algorithm sends you off to some random video, check out this video about how at the core of China's problems is that the CCP has spent decades traumatizing millions of people. And now, those people are in charge. That in-depth episode is only available on our website, ChinaUncensored.tv. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.